Hey guys, Mosa here, and today I'm bringing you my Week 5 NFL Power Rankings. Now, without further ado, let's get started. Now, starting it off with the Carolina Panthers, a loss to the Cincinnati Bengals, 24 to 34. We'll be facing the Bears on Sunday in Chicago. 1-3 start, definitely stays in dead last in the power rankings. They are not a good team, and they're most likely going to be a top three team drafting this year. Bryce Young being benched was a good idea, but still, Andy Dalton is not the guy. I think Bryce Young will come back, but I just don't think it's this year, and they really shouldn't just force him back in. Next, we got the Patriots, who lost devastatingly to the San Francisco 49ers and will face off against the Dolphins at home. 1-3 start for the Patriots. Same thing as Carolina. They're not doing too well with Jacoby Brissett, but do not start Drake May yet. Let him learn a little bit more from Jacoby Brissett, and then start him in the future. Let him develop first. Now on to the New York Giants, who took on the Cowboys and lost on Thursday Night Football. Then we get them going up against Seattle in Seattle. The 1-3 Giants are not doing that well. Definitely should have been paying Saquon Barkley over Daniel Jones. Most likely they'll be a top 5 draft pick. And yeah, I don't expect much of them from this season. They're going to be a top 5, top 10 draft pick 100%. Now on to the Las Vegas Raiders, who won against Cleveland 20-16 and will face Denver in Denver. Now when it comes down to it, 2-2 start, very good for the Raiders, but they still have a tough season left to go, so not really expecting much of them. But that doesn't mean that they can't surprise us. Now on to the Jacksonville Jaguars, 0-4 start, and the Texans beat them. They were almost so close, but too bad. The Texans came back and won the game. They'll be facing off against Colts on Sunday, and to be honest, I don't expect them to win that game either. Their franchise is just not going to be successful this year. But to be honest, there is hope in the future if they get rid of Trent Baalke in the offseason. Now on to the Bears, and they took a win over the Los Angeles Rams at home, and will face off against Panthers. Now when it comes down to the Carolina Panthers, we obviously know not good season. The Bears, they're not going to have a good season either, but they're definitely going to have a better season than the Panthers. I don't believe that much in Caleb Williams right now, but I do expect some good from him in the future. And that Bears team is still way off from being a Super Bowl, let alone playoff contender. Now on to the Tennessee Titans, who took down the Dolphins on Monday Night Football and will take a bye this week. A 1-3 start, not too good. Will Levis needs to improve. That Titans team needs to do better. So take a break. Come back in week 6, and hopefully, for Titans fans' sake, you guys start winning. Now on to the Arizona Cardinals, who will take on the San Francisco 49ers in San Francisco, while they came off a loss to the Washington Commanders, which is just so devastating. Jaden Daniels, just on point. Kyler Murray needs to improve, and that team needs to improve as well. Like, James Conner did a decent job, but it was just not enough. 2 touchdowns alone. The Cardinals just need to do way better. Now on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who took a W against the Philadelphia Eagles 33-16 and will face off against the Falcons on Thursday Night Football. The Bucs have been doing pretty well under Baker Mayfield, and I expect a lot more from them. To be honest, there's a big chance they win here on Thursday night against the Falcons and in the near future. But to be honest, it's still tough to see, as that NFC South it's up for grabs. It's not for one team, and it's not because all teams are good. Like, some of them are good, but not all of them are. Like, the Falcons aren't doing pretty well, and the Panthers are just nowhere to be seen. It's between the Falcons, Saints, and Bucks, and it's just going to be one of them to enter the playoffs. The rest will be eliminated. Now on to the Washington Commanders, who took down the Cardinals in Arizona 42-14 and will take on the Cleveland Browns at home. Now when it comes down to the Washington Commanders, they've done pretty well with their rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels. And to be honest, I just hope it doesn't turn out like RG3. I just hope it doesn't come to that. But hopefully that we see Jaden Daniels not only succeed, but maybe we'll be seeing this new Commanders team succeed and make it into the playoffs. Now on to the New Orleans Saints, who got beat by the Atlanta Falcons 24-26 and will take on the Chiefs in Kansas City on Monday Night Football. When it comes down to this, I think the Saints will have a very, very, very tough time taking on that Kansas City Chiefs offense. And to be honest, who wouldn't? Like, in the end, it's going to end in a Chiefs win somehow, whether it's be, oh, the Chiefs are just very good, or the refs help them out. Doesn't matter. They're still going to win. There's no way New Orleans has a chance to win, although anything can really happen. But in the end, the Saints are most likely going to be neck and neck with the Bucks and Falcons for that division title. Now on to the LA Rams, who took a L from the Chicago Bears and will take on the Packers, who also took an L this week. But to be honest, 1-3 Rams team is just not good enough. I think that the Seahawks and 49ers are still the top two teams in the division. They'll be the two fighting for that division title. Most likely San Fran will win it out. But point is, they're far off from winning another Super Bowl. So they're going to have to really work on their team this offseason because, to be honest, potentially Matt Stafford's going to retire next year, and we're probably going to be seeing a new quarterback going into Los Angeles, and we're going to be seeing a rebuild start in LA. Now on to the Broncos, who took a win from the Aaron Rodgers New York Jets 10-9, and will take on the Raiders, who beat the Browns this week. So let's see. I'm going to just say this. This is going to be a very interesting matchup. Bo Nix, very good 2-win streak against the Bucks and Jets. So I honestly think that this might be a toss-up in between the Raiders and the Broncos. Because to be honest, you got on one side a very good defense that can help stop Bo Nix, but you also got not terrible, but a relatively decent offense for the Raiders, who would be going up against that Denver defense, who honestly kept the Jets to 9 points. So let's say the Broncos are really going to have a fun game against the Raiders. Now on to the LA Chargers, who are on a bye this week after losing 17-10 to the Kansas City Chiefs. 2-2 start. They're definitely a team that most likely will be if they are a wild card team, that's as far as they go. The Kansas City Chiefs obviously own the AFC West, so I don't see any chance for any of those teams to win that division now. Like, maybe before I could see the Chargers winning it out, but not anymore. I don't see that. But in the end, the Chargers are not a bad team. They got Justin Herbert. They got a very good offense. I think that they could actually make it to the playoffs, but a Super Bowl run is still not there. Now on to the Atlanta Falcons, who took a win over the New Orleans Saints and will take on the Bucks on Thursday Night Football at home. But when it comes down to it, is the Atlanta Falcons a team to be reckoned with? Definitely no. But it's going to be the Saints, Bucks, or Falcons who are going to win that division. It's going to come down to wire whether a team gets a winning record or not. It doesn't matter. One of the teams will make it. One of the teams will get into the playoffs, and the Falcons are relatively close to that. Otherwise, expect them to have a top 10, top 15 draft pick. Now on to the Miami Dolphins, who took an L from the Tennessee Titans and will be taking on the Patriots at Foxborough. Now, when it comes down to it, unless Tua comes back, I don't see any success coming from the Miami Dolphins. I think the Miami Dolphins will still take an L. I think they'll most likely be a losing franchise for the meantime, not because necessarily Tua ain't there, but I feel like the other quarterbacks are the issue. It's not that Tua is not there being the problem. The problem is who you have at quarterback. You had Skylar Thompson, who is a backup and relatively good one, but injured now, and then Tyler Huntley comes in and does a terrible game. I don't think that Tyler Huntley is a good quarterback to be starting either. So in the end, we'll see how this ends up, but I don't see much from Miami. Now on to the New York Jets, who just took an L from the Denver Broncos and will face off against the 4-0 Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota. Expectations is for Minnesota to win, and Aaron Rodgers, too bad. So sorry. You're not going to beat Minnesota like you used to when you were a Green Bay Packer. But in the end, when it comes down to it, the Jets need to do a lot more. Aaron Rodgers obviously is not washed, but he's not the same guy he was in Green Bay. It's definitely not the same guy. So I'm thinking that a potential of a successful season for the New York Jets is closely getting slimmer to almost no possibility. Now on to the Dallas Cowboys, who just beat the New York Giants on Thursday night and will take on the Steelers on Sunday night in Pittsburgh. Yeah, that's going to be a tough game for the Cowboys. The Steelers, even though they lost the Colts, I still think of them as a very good team. Most likely, they're going to run over the Cowboys, but the Cowboys obviously still in playoff contention mode. I think that they'll make the playoffs, whether it be division title or wild card, doesn't matter. But in the end, is Dak Prescott the guy? Is bringing back guys like Ezekiel Elliott or bringing in Dalvin Cook the guy? I don't think so. But in the end, it all comes down to what they're going to do in Dallas. Now on to the Cleveland Browns, who just took an L from the Las Vegas Raiders and will go up against the Commanders. When it comes to the Browns, they've got a quarterback that is potentially a horrible person off the football field. It's obviously all that is allegations, and I'm not going to get into it. But besides that, he's not performing like he was in Houston. So even the contract that they gave him is not proving to be a successful one. You guaranteed him a lot of money from a $200-some million contract, and he's performing like this and potentially doing bad things outside of football. So in the end, what is the point? Like, at this point, first, you're not going to be able to trade him away. That's number one. No one's going to want him. Number two, when it comes to the contract, unless you find a way to void the contract, you're stuck with him until the contract ends. So yeah, I'm just saying, Cleveland, prepare for some bad football. Now on to my Seattle Seahawks, who took their first L to the Detroit Lions. Kudos to the Lions. But New York, we got the Giants next. This should be an easy game. It's against Daniel Jones and the New York Giants, of course. But Seattle's defense is very hampered, and it's the reason why Seattle was not able to do much against the Detroit Lions defensively. But in the end, it comes down to who's going to play, because without certain players like Baker and Williams and all those guys, even the rookie Byron Murphy, without those and potentially without Julian Love, yeah, I don't expect a very good defensive game from Seattle. And in the end, Seattle's going to be a team to potentially win the division, but San Francisco is right there. Now on to the Cincinnati Bengals, who took a W from the Carolina Panthers and will take on the Ravens next week on Sunday. When it comes down to this team, well, let's just say the Bengals are probably going to get another loss. They're not going to be that top team they were before. Even with Joe Burrow at quarterback, to be honest, it's going to be a tough season for Cincinnati, especially after that close win, because 10 points is still close in my opinion, by the Carolina Panthers is something to worry about, especially starting 0-3 prior to that game. Now on to the Indianapolis Colts, who took a win from the Steelers and will take on Jacksonville on Sunday. But in the end, what's this team going to do? Is Anthony Richardson your guy? Probably. But in the end, Joe Flacco was the one who led this team to victory after Anthony Richardson came down with injury. And that's mainly why it's potential that he might not be the guy in Indianapolis anymore, and that's because of the injury. So expect a little bit more from the Colts if you see AR5 on the field, but otherwise, I think a lot of Colts fans are going to be hoping for Joe Flacco again. But it is the Jaguars who are 0-4, so I think you're safe. Now on to the Green Bay Packers, who took an L after a close loss to the Minnesota Vikings, will take on the LA Rams in Los Angeles. Jordan Love's back, but is that a good thing? Well, I don't think that they'll lose to the LA Rams, but in the end, anything could happen. And to be honest, I think that the Green Bay Packers are still in the running for a playoff spot. Not as division champions, but still. In the end, it'll all come down to the wire when it comes to the Green Bay Packers. And they'll definitely be a playoff team, just not. Though maybe they'll be a seventh seed again. But in the end, it's going to be very tough for Green Bay. Now, on to the Philadelphia Eagles, who took a big L from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, will be on a bye. So they'll have time to rest up and come back and try and win in week 6. But in the end, they are not dominating the NFC East. That is Washington. Washington is beating the Cowboys, Giants, and Eagles for that division title right now. That doesn't mean that can't change. But it is struggling for Philadelphia. So hopefully they can get some rest and then come back and win some more. Now on to the San Francisco 49ers, and the 49ers going up against Arizona after their win over the Patriots. Yeah, I think that that's going to be a win for the San Francisco 49ers. I think that the 49ers could still be the B team of the division. Like Seattle's just doing weird things right now that they're being good when I think they're going to be bad. But in the end, like it really comes down to the wire. Is San Francisco very good team under Brock Purdy, or is the fact that Brock Purdy might be regressing a potential reason why the San Francisco 49ers are losing easy games? But against Arizona, I think that that's more likely for San Francisco to win. Now on to the Minnesota Vikings, who took down the Packers and will go up against the Jets at home. Yeah, Minnesota has been just outstanding with Sam Darnold at quarterback. I think that Sam Darnold might actually have just been a bad quarterback based off of the fact that he was in Carolina and New York. But he backed up in San Francisco, and now look at him. He's basically becoming a legend in Minnesota at this point. But to be honest, it's bound to come to an end, but I don't think it's going to come to an end against New York. Oh, Pittsburgh. Yo, got your first L. 3-1. 24-27 loss to the Colts. We'll be facing the Cowboys on Sunday night at home. This is going to be a very interesting game. Dallas versus Pittsburgh, a rivalry game as well. But it's going to be a very fun game because first you got a team that potentially is overrated and a team that is definitely not going to be a top team in the NFL come this season. Potentially a playoff team, but that is potentially. But in the end, what is going to happen with Pittsburgh? Are they going to start on a losing streak and then going to start Russell Wilson eventually? You never know. Now on to the Houston Texans, who took down the Jacksonville Jaguars and will take on the Bills on Sunday. When it comes down to it, this team is going to lead the AFC South no matter what. They're going to be the ones to win the South, but are they going to be a top playoff team? That is the question. Is CJ Stroud going to be a quarterback like Russell Wilson to win a Super Bowl in his second year? You never know. That could happen. But I always see to believe, hey, how is he doing? Okay, he's doing pretty well. So let's see what happens. It's a very long season. And by week 18, we'll know how good CJ Stroud is this year compared to his rookie. Now on to the Buffalo Bills, who took an L from the Ravens on Sunday night and will take on the Texans in Houston. Yeah, Buffalo, something's happening, but I still feel like your game against the Houston Texans is going to still be close. It's not going to be like a blowout, or at least a 35-10 shellacking you got from the Baltimore Ravens. But in the end, I think that Josh Allen will do a pretty decent job, and the defense will keep CJ Stroud in check. But in the end, it all comes down to the wire. And honestly, the Bills are still a good team. They're just not succeeding at the moment. Now on to the Baltimore Ravens, who took down the Bills and will be in Cincinnati next week on Sunday. When it comes down to this, is Lamar Jackson the guy? I think so. I think Lamar Jackson's been doing pretty well. but it has always been close reasoning why the Ravens have lost games, especially against the Kansas City Chiefs. But in the end, it comes down to one thing. Are the Bengals really on a downturn? Or will the Ravens be shown the door by Cincinnati in Paycor Stadium? Because to be honest, it's going to be a tough matchup either ways. Even if I believe Ravens are going to still win, it's going to be a tough matchup. Now on the Detroit Lions. They're number 2. I can't believe I just said that, but they beat my Seattle Seahawks and just took out the belt and whooped us. But in the end, they're going into their bye. And to be honest, I think they're in a good situation. Their only rival truly is the Minnesota Vikings in that division. So are they going to beat the Minnesota Vikings eventually? I think they could. But in the end, it's going to be a flip of a coin on who out of those two wins the NFC North. But it's always good to watch. Let's see what happens. To be honest, I'm going to be very happy to see who actually takes that NFC North title. And maybe we'll be seeing the Lions in the Super Bowl. And of course, who else but the Kansas City Chiefs at number 1, 4-0 start, beating the Chargers 17-10, and now going up against the Saints at home on Monday Night Football. When it comes down to it, I think that the Kansas City Chiefs are just going to win and win and win. Maybe 3-4 losses on the year, but at that's the max I'm giving them. To be honest, this team is not going to lose that easily. So, yeah, expectations for the Kansas City Chiefs are very high against the New Orleans Saints, and most likely they're going to whoop them just like they whooped the Chargers. Now, that was it for this video. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. Who do you think should be higher and who do you think should be lower? Tell me down in the comments below. Now, like this video if you liked it, subscribe, and hit the notification if you want more videos. And I'll see you guys next time.